Hi, everybody. Welcome to EANE Office Hours, where we have real workplace conversations. And this month's episode is So Your Coworker's a And here to join me is my colleague, Kevin.
Hi, everyone. Kevin Joly, HR business partner with the Employers Association.
All right, you ready to get into it?
Do it.
Okay. So, what did difficult personalities really look like at work?
Yeah, so difficult personalities at work take a whole bunch of shapes. It can be a person that is a bully. It can be a person that likes to gossip. It's a person that um, likes to skirt accountability or make things personal when they're really not. So it takes a whole bunch of different shapes and forms at work. But I think what they all have in common is they're not necessarily focused on the business or the company or doing what's right for the people in the business. And that comes out in a whole bunch of different ways at work.
Like what?
So, you can see people that push their way, yell over people, gossip about other people, provide feedback that isn't necessarily constructive. Maybe they're, talking behind people's back to get an advantage. Maybe they're refusing to cooperate with people because they don't like the idea, or they're hiding ideas so they can get credit. So there's all sorts of ways and reasons people do those things, and those personalities start to really disrupt the work and disrupt the morale and the overall well-being of the business.
Definitely. What do you think the difference between a strong personality and someone who might just be, like you were saying, difficult to work with at work, or a bully, as you were saying?
Yeah, I think there's people that have strong beliefs and believe strongly about certain things, and they're maybe more comfortable and willing to express their concerns. I think the difference is when they're not willing to cooperate and they're not focused on the business and not willing to compromise or at least hear other people out, or do things with the best interest of the company and people in mind. I think that's where it becomes a concern. But in some ways, strong personalities and that assertiveness is important in some ways, and we never want to hold people back because people have strengths and weaknesses, but they need to make sure they're leveraging them in a way that's productive for work purposes.
Definitely. That makes a lot of sense. And it's really interesting you talk about that, having the difference between that strong personality, because sometimes people with a strong personality might be seen as a bully because they have those strong beliefs, like you were starting to say. So when do you think that this behavior might become worth addressing to an upper or to a colleague?
Totally, yeah. I think there's a whole bunch of ways, and we hear this a lot with write-ups and when we're issuing corrective actions to people. How do we write someone up for a bad attitude, or how do we write someone up for this behavior? And we really want to talk about where it intersects the work, right? So if communication is being sacrificed, if people don't feel comfortable at work, if customers or projects are being sacrificed because of someone's communication or behavior, uh, all of those are indicators that we need to have a conversation with this employee, because how is it affecting the business, right? And if those behaviors or their personalities are causing the business or part of the business to be hurt in some way, that's really the most meaningful way to intersect those conversations with people.
So when their behavior, their action starts disrupting their work or other people's work or the work of the business, then it should be addressed and taken care of.
Totally, because I think in a different setting, if someone's just being not unprofessional or being a jerk or whatever it is, to come to them and say, "Oh, you're just being a jerk and we don't like it," that's not a very convincing argument. What it might be true, right, which is totally fine, but that may not be enough information or enough justification to have the conversation. And it's also going to feel almost like a personal attack on them, when really we're reframing it. It's really about the business and how it affects morale and communication. And that's why those behaviors are a concern. If you want to be a jerk in your personal life or whatever you are, knock yourself out. But when we're here at work, we're really expecting cooperative, professional, constructive communication and behavior.
Yeah, definitely. So, say I feel like you are exhibiting some difficult behavior at work. How do you suggest that someone like me handle it when it's a one on one peer situation?
Well, yeah, and I think that's a level of comfort. And again, this goes back to people's personality types. Some people feel a lot more comfortable having those conversations with people, and other people just don't, right? So I think if you're a person that doesn't feel comfortable and it's not affecting your work at all, it might be there may not be a lot of value in having that conversation at that point, but eventually it's going to get to a point where it's going to affect your work, right?
Yeah.
Now, as a peer and as a colleague, and again, this is coming from another constructive and helpful point of view, if I had a peer that was engaging in that behavior, um, that idea of feedback being a gift, I would let them know how it's affecting the business, right? And that approach is important too from a business side, how it's affecting the business, but also how it's affecting their effectiveness as an employee and maybe as a leader or manager, right? So I
Yeah.
think if you feel comfortable saying those things, which is, those are difficult conversations, and it's way easier said than done in this, from here. But understanding all the damage they're doing to relationships in their work relationships, which is lowering their ability to be a good influencer, to get buy-in from people, and down the road when these people need something from them, if we've damaged those relationships so much, we're going to lose the benefit of the doubt in a lot of these conversations. So, I think getting to these people with constructive feedback, specifics, and what's the business outcome of those conversations or those behaviors is probably the most constructive way to give the feedback to a peer. Because again, it's coming from a place of concern and hey, I'm just giving this feedback because this is going to burn you down the road, conceivably if you continue to do it.
Yeah, like you said, it's definitely a difficult conversation to have, and it can be a really difficult conversation to have. And it all comes back to workplace culture. I feel like if you have that workplace culture where you feel like you have those abilities to have those open and honest conversations with people, it can really build team relationships and work culture and as a whole. And speaking of difficult conversations, how do you think that managers can work towards managing teams or individuals who might have these behaviors?
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes back to the start too, really the business impact of the conversations, the business impact of the behaviors. But I do think too, if we come into these conversations too vague and too open, they're not going to have any impact. So just like technical skills, and if Kevin messes up billing or Kevin messes up something, there's tactical, detailed things that we would expect to happen. And we can do that with our personality soft skills as well too. If you're frustrated, you need to talk to your supervisor instead of expressing it a different way. If you're having a concern or an issue with a coworker, you need to step away from the conversation and escalate it to the proper channels, right? So there's technical or tactical things that people can do, and sometimes for people with these problems is maybe a wrong word, but people are experiencing these behaviors at work, they do need granular steps on how to get better, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
if you just say it's bad and your attitude's bad, I don't know how impactful that's going to be for them,
Right.
and they're not going to leave with any more information than they feel like they're being judged.
Do you think people can often be resistant to those changes or resistant to those not changes but conversations that are had?
Absolutely, and I think it's always hard to hear feedback, right? Especially if it's about those softer skills, and the people that take it well and take it and change, I give them a whole bunch of credit, right? Because it's a really, really important skill to have, but no one wants to come to work and hear that their attitude and personality is bad, or they're being a bully. No, I don't think anyone wants to hear that, whether they know it or not. And I think the other piece of it is what's got them to this point. And there may be things in the organization that have made the person this way. Not that that justifies the behavior or the reaction, but I think it's important to also understand what's got them to this point where they feel they need to behave this way, because in their mind they may feel they're doing it and it's getting them some level of results or attention that they're wanting. So why are they acting out in this way? I think is a fair conversation to have too.
Totally. And you have anything else you'd like to say to wrap up this conversation?
No, I think it's really about all top down. We're focused on the business. We're focused on what's doing right for our customers and our people, and we're here to get our people better, and we're here to move the business along. And I think when you keep your work framed on that, and you're framed on making people better and helping your employees and keeping it professional, people start to realize that some of the other drama and some of the other behaviors are just not going to be tolerated. And I think when they stop getting that attention from it, they either fall in line or they find somewhere else to get the attention they need. So I just think that professionalism and that business focus, compiled with some of those leadership skills, right? The engagingness, the ability to get people excited about things, and having leaders that are friendly and outgoing and helpful. And I think all of that together with the focus on the professional goals and the mission helps alleviate a lot of these tough personalities.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Kevin, and we'll see you next month. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Yes.